You're about to learn how to master dinking in literally 5 minutes.
For the first minute, we're gonna focus on the motion of the dink. We're going to start by tossing the ball underhanded back and forth with your chest facing the net at all times. Keep your knees bent and your feet wide to make sure you're balanced. If you can do this, then you're on the right path because this is the exact same motion as a dink. So to refine it, practice tossing the ball back and forth over the net, making sure that the ball lands in the kitchen each time. Have your partner catch the ball and toss it back and forth until this motion feels comfortable. As you practice this, you should notice your body weight shift from one side back to middle as you toss the ball and also as you catch the ball.
Let's increase the difficulty. Start mixing up the tosses to get your partner moving. You can shoot for their left, right, or even their feet to make the catch more difficult. When you're moving to the ball, focus on your footwork so that you're shuffling rather than taking large steps or crossing over. Now that we've got the fundamentals, let's grab our paddles and apply it.
We're using the same motion now, but with a paddle in hand. Start by dropping the ball in front of your body and use that underhanded tossing motion to hit to your partner across the net. Practice keeping your stroke very compact. Be careful not to let your paddle drift behind or to the side of your body. Your contact point should always be out in front. Have them catch the ball and repeat this process back to you. Your goal for now is to get the ball to land in the kitchen directly in front of your partner. Really focus on making contact with the center of your paddle and use that same lifting motion as before.
When you feel comfortable with your forehand and you're hitting the same spot of the court consistently, it's time to switch over to your backhand. The backhand motion is very close to the forehand motion, but instead of leading with your palm, you lead with your knuckles. Get your paddle below the ball and use that same lifting motion to arc it across the net. More people tend to struggle dinking with their backhand as opposed to their forehand. So don't feel bad if this feels awkward, that's completely normal. We'll show you how to use that to your advantage against your opponent in a few minutes.
When you're dinking, balls aren't going to land in the same spot consistently, so you need to be able to adapt. Often your opponent will hit the ball deeper, leaving you with a decision to make. Should you take the ball out of the air or should you let it bounce? Here's how you know. Ideally, grab a piece of tape, or if you don't have that, any small object will work. This is your marker. Grab your marker and hold it out in front of you while in your ready stance. Set the marker on the ground without moving your feet to find your furthest reaching point. Balls that land past this marker should be taken out of the air with a volley, and any that land before the marker should be bounced. It's that simple. So let's practice this. Have your partner toss a ball towards you, and once it crosses the plane of the net, say air or bounce. Then use the marker to see if your judgment was correct.
With enough repetition, this decision will become second nature to you. When you understand the right decisions, we can start putting it into practice. The motion of a volley dink requires even less movement than our previous dinks. Simply put your paddle out in front of you and impact the ball on the center of your paddle. If the ball is moving slowly, you'll have to add a lifting motion like before. A huge factor to consider here is the angle of your paddle. An open face will launch the ball upwards, a closed face will send the ball into the ground. Find the right balance and work on getting the ball over the net and into your opponent's kitchen.
Now that we know how to dink from the ground and out of the air, it's time to add purpose to our shots. That brings us to the lift-push game. Start by dinking the ball back and forth with your opponent. When your opponent pushes you backwards with the dink and puts you in a compromised position, you've got to play defensive to reset the point. To do that, lift the ball up in the air with a bit of arc, which will give you some time to reposition. Before you do this, say the word lift. Vice versa, when your opponent lifts the ball too high, it's our turn to push them back and take control of the point. Instead of adding arc and lifting up, we should add pressure to our opponent by aiming lower and pushing the ball deeper into the kitchen. Before you do this, say the word push.
Continue rallying like this back and forth, and you should notice a couple of things. First, when your opponent pushes the ball, you're usually forced to play defensive by lifting. It's almost never a good idea to push a push. Second, you're going to win a lot of points by pushing the ball to your opponent's feet. This is something that we want to take advantage of in the next minute.
For the final minute, we're going to show you how to use your new skills to get even more pop-ups from your opponents. The simplest way to force errors from your opponent is to hit diverse shots. If you feed your opponent the same ball over and over again, it's easy for them to find their rhythm. That's why the key to effective dinking is variation. Targeting different spots in the kitchen will keep your opponent on their toes and force more errors.
To practice this, we're going to use patterns against your partner. Start a dink rally with your partner where one person is hitting lift dinks and the other is practicing patterns. A pattern to try out is the 3-to-1 rule. Try hitting 3 dinks to your partner's forehand, then on your 4th shot, hit to their backhand instead. By practicing the 3-to-1 rule, you should start to notice which shots your opponent struggles with. For example, if you hit 3 dinks to your opponent's forehand and then hit 1 to their backhand, which leads to a pop-up, you've discovered that their backhand is weaker. This gives you the opportunity to exploit that vulnerability and target their weakness. So whenever you're mixing up your shots, take note of, and target the areas your opponent struggles with.
Now you've mastered the basics of dinking. But in order to use your new skills, you're going to have to make it to the kitchen line first.
This next video will show you exactly how to do that. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss it.